at the cost of sounding redundant and using a phrase, what a difference a day makes. What a difference a day makes in mixed martial arts, guys. Isn't that something we learned? Let me tell you something that happened. Conor McGregor's coming and fighting at 170 pounds. I'm dying to know why. Now, it appears that we actually have an answer to that question because Dana White came out and said, look, just imagine he and Cowboy, they're both 155 pounders. Just imagine this is a 155 pound fight that they're just not cutting weight for. Ignore the whole 170. They're both 55 pounders, and this fight is going to have implications in the system at 155. In fact, let me just tell you how this story goes. If Conor wins, Conor's fighting Khabib for the strap. That is how much this should be interpreted as a 155-pound fight. Okay. But Conor hasn't said the same thing. Conor has given every indication that he's staying at 170 pounds. He went as far as on Saturday night after Usman won to tweet out 145, 155, 170, meaning champ, 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 I'm coming for 170. Now, Conor's no fool, and he's never going to miss the chance to get a headline. And by the way, guess who fell for it? Your own Chael P, because here I am talking about it. So there is something interesting there, but not for nothing. You say anything you want about Conor McGregor. If you call Conor a coward, that's just fiction. That's just not true. Conor is not scared, and he will go and fight whoever at 170. I believe he's going after Masvidal. Perhaps that changed, and now he's going after Usman. Perhaps neither is likely, and Dana is going to put the fight down at 155. Implications are at 155, and next up is the winner of Khabib and Tony. We don't know. But what we do know is that things change very rapidly, and allow me to tie that in with a statement that Usman made earlier today. Usman came out and was asked about Conor McGregor and just said, stop. I'm not playing the Conor game. He is way too small. He would get killed by me. I'm not even talking about, let somebody else go beg him for a fight. Not only am I not begging him for a fight, I'm telling you openly now, I will not fight him. Well, that could be true. That could be marketing by Kamaru. That could be something in between by Kamaru. That could just be an organic and natural thought, and that's his interpretation that had no actual meaning or strategy behind it that ends up working in his favor. There's a number of things that could happen. But we have learned about this sport that things change very quickly. And if you think that Conor McGregor is too small or too forgotten or too far removed, the Conor show was just about to begin. And by mid-January, Conor is going to be in the forefront of your mind. If you think he's in the back of your mind now or he's in the back of everybody else's minds, you could be right, but you will be wrong, and you will have a different opinion by the time he hits the scale and eventually steps into the cage in January. Should he have a very impressive fight, things are going to change very rapidly. Should he have a very impressive win, things are going to change very rapidly. Should he be in the forefront of your mind by the time he gets in the cage and he has a terrible performance and loses, things are going to change very rapidly. So allow Conor the opportunity to go out and fight at 170 pounds. Let's see how close to that limit he gets. Let's see how close to that limit his opponent gets. And then let's see the fight play out, and then let's just see what happens. 170 pounds is very bizarre. Dana, all in the last week, just in the last week, Kamaru and Colby have settled that for the time being. All in the last week, Dana has said, I would like to see Colby fight Woodley. All in the last week, somewhere, the narrative that Woodley was going to fight Leon Edwards has vanished. Dana also talked about, I would like to see Kamaru and Masvidal. Kamaru came out 5 minutes before I sat down to film this for you guys and said, I would like an even bigger fight with GSP. How can you tell me things in this sport don't change very quickly? Allow people the right to change their mind. Everybody should be willing to change their mind when they're confronted with new evidence, and the evidence changes very rapidly as to who's the best, who should be ranked where. What do the fans want to see? What are the top draws? What are the big fights? It changes very, very rapidly, and I do think that George should be fit into that conversation. I believe George was very candid and open with you all when he said, I would come back for one fight. It needs to be a mega fight, and it needs to be against Khabib. I believe he was very honest and sincere when he told you that. But I believe he wanted it in that order. Mega fight, Khabib. At the time that George made that statement, there was only one mega fight out there for him, and that was Khabib. The storyline of champ, champ, champ. 70-pound champ, 85-pound champ, drop down 2 weight class, 55-pound champ. It works and it sells and it draws and it satisfies George's first requirement, which is mega fight, legacy fight. It satisfies that, and then by default, it fell onto Khabib. That is what I believe, and that is not the case anymore. And George has now been called out by the world champion. Oh, by the way, the world champion of the weight class that George owned from 2002 to 2013, the longest span of all time. Now, I want anybody to fact check me and tell me about the Sarah fight and then George got it. But I understand what happened, but to act like he wasn't king, never walked out less than a 5-rounder, never walked out less than a championship, it is a very meaningful thing. And to act as though George is going to just sit back and be happy about getting called out. Now, you're not going to ruffle George's feathers like you could Conor's, like you could mine. I mean, it's not going to take a whole lot. Some guys, they get called out, boom, you got to go have a fight. But George has also never been in a spot ever in his career, ever until 10 minutes ago, where he was called out by somebody in front of him. George was always the champion. Guys call George out, yeah, that's kind of what you do. You come after the champ. Do you want me? Do you want the belt? Do you want the money that comes along with it? What do you want? Yeah, I'm not going to respond. You're beneath me. How are we good? Not in a condescending way, but you are beneath me within the sport, within the rankings, within the perception. So therefore, your call out really doesn't help because you're not trying to pull me up. You're trying to lift yourself. I get it. It's fair, but you're not going to bother me. This is George, right? This is George's internal narrative. 10 minutes ago, George St-Pierre got called out by somebody with a higher ranking than him. This is the first time ever that George has been called out by a champion willing to give George an opportunity. That has never happened before. I cannot predict for you how he's going to respond. He's very unpredictable. He may not even find out that he was called out 10 minutes ago for another 2 or 3 days. George could be anywhere in the world doing anything in the world and not even have reception, but George is still an animal. And he's different. He's not like most guys. He has his own philosophies, but he is still an animal. And if you back him into a corner, he is going to fight his way out of it. And I am very curious, just as a fan, how he's going to respond.